class. So this is business communication, and I had already done a whole video on it, but then I got like kicked out because of my, so I got a call. So anyway, so please forgive the help. Anyway, so just want to say that, you know, in chapter 16, there is Sapos, and they're featured, and they talk about it, okay? And so their headquarters is out of Las Vegas, and I think Miriam for our class this term did a whole presentation on it, on that business, okay? So the CEO just passed away, I think like yesterday. I read it in the paper, I think in the mobile or whatever, either today or yesterday, okay? So very, very, very interesting. They were very, very thinking out of the box, and it's probably a huge loss. So that's really interesting, and that's how you create your schemata, and that's how you create your foundation and your knowledge, right? So because we had to read it, I think it was in chapter 16, they featured his company, and then it comes out in the news, and then you can see that the CEO, passed away. He was just 46. I say just because, I'm older, so 46 is really, really young, but he obviously he was already a millionaire by that time. So a great loss, right? So very interesting, and that's how you become knowledgeable, and that's how you become articulate, and that's how you can speak on many various things, right? Because you saw it at school and you read it, then it came out in the news, and then so you can relate it and you can understand, and that's why I can tell you that their offices are out of Las Vegas. And because my student did educated me on it, because she did a whole presentation on it, and those are the powers of the presentation. If we were in regular class, I just haven't been able to figure it out here with Teams and all that or whatever. I guess we could do it on Zoom, but it'd be a hot mess, and I don't want to tie that to your grade. But if we would have regular class, then everybody would present their presentation. So instead of you having to do the whole research for all the presentations, by just sitting in on the presentation, you can learn a lot without you having to do the research. And so that's the beauty of presentations, right? You present whatever it is, whatever information it is that you're presenting. So very, very interesting on that if you want to read up on it. So you had chapters, I think either 14 and 16 last time, or 13. You know how I messed it up. So anyway, so we will be having for homework chapters 1 and chapters 2. And you have up until Wednesday to turn it in, which means that the deadline and the closing period will be Thursday midnight, okay? So you will have pages 29 through 30, and it will be for chapter 1. It will be objective 1.1 to 1.6, and you have questions 1 through 18, okay? 1 through 18. So make sure, remember to work smarter, not harder. So whatever works for you, but don't turn in ugly stuff and bad stuff that disrespects me in any way, okay? I can't make it any simpler. All right, so, and then for chapter 2, you're gonna do page, hold on here. Where is it? I can't find it. That's so rude. Please forgive me. So we're going to have to do page 60 through 61, and it's objectives 12.1 through, not 12, 2.1 through 2.7. Now let me show you something in terms of consistency and in terms of pattern. Patterns are huge, okay? And if you can't figure out the patterns, you're going to have a really hard time. And this is patterns for life, and life has a lot of patterns. These objectives in the back, okay, like this, what you're doing. Right here. Do you see this? Right? Okay. It says here 2.1, if you'll notice. The first number will tell you what the chapter is. Okay, if you'll check out in chapter 1, it'll have 1.1 through whatever. I think it was to 1.6. In this one, it's 2.1 through 2.7. Okay, so your first number is your chapter. If we go on to chapter 3, it'll have 3.1 to whatever it is. I think it's 6 or 7. Okay, so make sure that you check out your patterns, because that way you can see that it's 2.1. Right now I was referencing in that other video, I don't know what, and I noticed that the numbers were incorrect. So I was in the wrong number. I started with chapter 2, and then I thought I was in chapter 1, but then the numbers didn't match. So in chapter 2, it's page 60, but I said, how can it be if it's chapter 1? So those are things and processes, right? That your brain is trained, and you start training yourself where there's like patterns and discrepancies within the whole system that you're doing that sets you off, that you're like, wait, and if we're doing chapter 1, how come it's page 60? It's too many pages, do you see? And then if I'm in objective 2.1, and that's when I noticed. So then when I said 60 and then I went down and I said 2.1, I said, oh my God, I haven't done chapter 1, because chapter 1 is 1.1. Okay, so those are specific clues and patterns that you get. And when you're billing, right, and you're inputting all that information, I'm sure there's specific patterns that you can notice. So check out your patterns and train your brain and train yourself to be able to pick those up, because you can avoid a lot of mistakes, but you can also figure out a lot of things, okay? And I'm going to give you a little tidbit on this, okay? Because I think I already told you what to do. Chapter 60 is 2.1 through 2.7, and it goes all the way to 61, and then it's questions 1 through 19, right? So 1 through 19. So that's your homework, and it's going to be due on Wednesday. Cutoff is Thursday midnight. Okay, so let's go back. I really needed an email, and people are very guarded, especially people in very high positions. They don't like to give out their information at all, because you get all these people that sort of, try to get a hold of you, and they just waste your time. Okay, so it's sort of like with me in school. Now I'm in a different profession. I have something in my eye, please forgive me, and it's bothering me, like a little like feather or something. So I was when I was in school as a principal, I wouldn't take any calls, like cold calls. Like people would call me if I didn't know them or I didn't have an appointment. I wouldn't take them. If people just showed up out of the blue, I wouldn't take them. I didn't have to, and all they did was waste my time, because I didn't have any time. I mean, I hardly ever ate because we were always in a hurry. So So when you're trying to find someone or get someone, you don't have an appointment or you can't figure things out, it's going to be really hard for you. So it's hard to get to them, okay? And their secretaries and there's receptionists and all these people are sort of blockages and sort of protectors to get to the person that you need to get to. That's why custodial staff and housekeeping is very, very important, because they have access to people that nobody else would, right? Because your CEOs and everything are the ones that usually are staying late or usually get there early or whatever, and so they have immense access to them. So I was trying to get a hold of this email of this person, one of the chiefs of police that I needed, because I was pitching him. I wanted him to move into this property that I had, and you couldn't find his email anywhere. Nowhere. And nobody would give it to you. I would call the station. Of course they weren't going to give it to me. Who's going to have nobody, right? But what happened is that I figured out the pattern of their email, all right? So their patterns of the email, like for our emails, your emails, and us, right? You usually have your first initial and then your surname, which is your last name. And then we have at southwestuniversity.edu. For you all, you have, I think it's your last name. I'm thinking, I don't know, something with your name, and then you have 4 digits. So once you figure out the emails, then it's sort of easy, right? So anybody that is in Southwest, 4 emails for your teachers or people, your directors or whatever. It's their first initial of their first name, and then it's their full surname. Surname is your last name, okay? But it's proper language is surname, right? And then it's at southwestuniversity.edu. So you can figure out anybody's email without even knowing or seeing it if you know their first and last name, or at least even if you know their first initial and last initial. And that's what I did to get this gentleman. I should have figured out the patterns. I knew what his first name and his last name was, and I just made it up, right? And I said, according to the pattern of this institution and this business, right? And for them, it wasn't necessarily business. I said, I think that this is how the email is. So I sent him the email, and sure enough, that's what the email was, and he responded right away. So it gives you great power. The other thing is that when I was getting one of my certifications, I already had my master's, and when I was getting my certification, and I had that hater that told me, in the rate your teacher that says all I do is talk about myself. I do, because I have a lot of experience. So hopefully, and it's not about talking about myself, but it's about the experience experiences that I have, okay, is really what I'm talking about. And hopefully one day in your life, you're going to be in a situation where you're going to remember some story that I gave, and that's what's going to give you an opportunity. Now, remember that I'm also, into esoteric stuff or whatever. So I believe that sometimes we are given information that later we're going to be able to use, and whatever comes to mind, like sometimes it's just out of the blue, you think of something, there's a reason you're thinking about that. That means that there's something in that experience that's going to help you in your current experience. So go through it, and specifically whatever it is that you're thinking about is what's going to help you. So be mindful of that, and don't discard it, and don't think it's crazy. And you're like, why am I thinking that? That's crazy. It just came to mind. There's a reason in the details of whatever your thought is that's going to help you with your current situation. All right. So going back to myself, right? Like that hater told me, whatever, they just didn't get my class. So when I was getting one of my certifications, and it wasn't a master's, I already had my master's, and the doctor that was in charge, and it was for NMSU, because remember my career for education was in New Mexico, okay? And so she really wanted me to get another master's. I didn't want to get another master's. I was sick of school, but I needed the certification. It was a certification on dual language, which I became an expert in. And so I met a lot of really interesting people in that program, because they were very driven. They were getting their master's, and then it was sort of like a dual like certification. Like it was a master's, and then they got like a certification, or like they got like a dual master's, and I don't know what. I mean, it was an amazing program, an amazing opportunity. So everybody was really, really smart, and everybody was really heavy duty into their profession, and into really progressing. So there was one specific, for dual language, there was a renowned person that did, this PhD, this doctor that did amazing research on it. And we had her books. I think it was a her. And we had, or a him, I can't remember. It was one of them. And so we had their books, because they author books, right? And so this girl, one of my colleagues, that the doctor of very prestigious, they invented like dual language, like they really studied it and they perfected it. And it's just like, I don't know, it's sort of like, talking to a scientist or a doctor that invented like either a vaccine or something, and being able, and have their book. So what she did is that, part of our research is that she was doing some sort of research and had some questions on whatever it is that he had researched in the book that we were reading. And it just so happened that she found him where he was working, right? Usually for us, for teachers, everybody's working at a university or community college or whatever, so you can really get a hold of them that way. So you have to know what profession you're in and how to locate all these people, right? She found him in wherever it is that he was working, and his email was there, just like if you would like look for me in Southwest, you would find all my contact. And she emailed him, and she got all the information that she wanted. It taught me so much. It floored me, because first and foremost, he was renowned. Like that PhD was renowned in his field. Like it's like he was a rock star, right, in our field of education. And she was able to tap into him just by a sheer email, and he responded, which most people will, especially if they have a specific legitimate question. They most and you ask, they will most definitely get back to you. So be bold, right? And it just taught me, I was like, that is brilliant. I've never forgotten how astute and how smart and how cunning, right? And that lady was. And it wasn't that cunning doesn't mean that you're mean or whatever. It just means that you're super like you're a fox, right? Like you figured it out and you were able to get it done. I was floored by her tenacity, her intelligence, and her boldness to just sort of figure it out, research it, find him, ask the question, and so he was an incredible resource for her paper, because he was like it on that specific topic. So he was renowned in that specific topic, nationally and internationally. So she had an amazing reference. So anyway, so really, really taught me a lot. Okay. So I don't know why I'm telling you this, because of the email. So anyway, so that's, you do chapter 1 and you do chapter 2 and you do the objectives, right? I think it's 1 through 16 on chapter 1 and then 1 through 18 on chapter 2. Oh, because I was telling you about the patterns and how to figure out the patterns, and with patterns we went to emails. This is the way my lectures are anyway. I sort of forget and then it sort of loops around. So it all loops around because it's all connected. Okay, so much to learn about, and very interesting that the CEO of Zappos passed away, and he was just so young, and that we had enough information to sort of discuss it and know about him, and actually know that his business and all that. So so very exciting. This is a very, very exciting class. I'll see you all tomorrow. Show up. This is what you pay for. You pay for my expertise. I have access to millionaires. I have access to entrepreneurs. I have access to people that have, built their, their corporations from the ground up. Is there anything that you're interested in? I've always been interested in people like that. What is it that sets them apart? Right? I have my own business that I've become very lucrative in, and that I've become very successful at. So I have a lot of experience about how to sort of set up a business and sort of, how to work it. And then I'm diverse, right? Let's talk about diversity. I have my school, which really grounds me and gives me a lot of stability. I also have my, my hobby, right? That I do the dream interpretations and, and the tarot readings, whether you believe it or not, but it is a business, and people are willing to pay for my services, whether it be in real estate, whether it be in education, or whether it be in esoteric things. And this weekend I went to the farmer's market, which is where you'll find me on Saturdays, where I do dream interpretations. I do guided meditation. For ex-military and for veterans, they're always very interested in the guided meditation. I think it really helps them tremendously. So this one was a veteran, and although he was very young, so please forgive me, maybe that's not the appropriate vocabulary, but he came to me and he said, I really would like to be able to do guided meditation. And so he was an attorney, believe it or not. And I was very well paid for for sort of guiding him through the meditation. So that was very interesting. So you can do anything as long as you provide a service, and as long as you find a niche that you fill, right? You're fulfilling a need. I was fulfilling a need. I'm fulfilling a need right here. So highly encourage you to show up to the meeting tomorrow. It's very exciting, even if you don't want to do business or whatever. How is it? At least for me, it's always been, and I guess I've always been in the in the forefront and on the path of becoming an entrepreneur, but life hadn't sort of set itself up, and now it has. But I've always been really interested in how does that work? How is it that they make money? How did they come up with the idea? How is it that they come up with so much money? How is it that they evolved? What sparked it? What created the idea? How did they pursue it? How do you start? How do you begin? How do you find your way through it? So lots of stuff, and that's about life. It's sort of like school, right? You come up with an idea. Well, maybe I should go to school. Maybe you talk to somebody that that was going to school, or maybe someone told you should go to school, right? Or maybe you're looking at something, or maybe you get all sorts of SU advertisements, and you're like, well, maybe I should be going to school, and then you sort of start thinking about it, and you start planning it, and then you start sabotaging. I can't do this. I don't think I'm smart enough. I don't think I have the money. I don't think I'll pass. It's too long. Who's going to take care of the kids, right? All those long stories that you told yourself that are only hindering you because you think you cannot do it, and most importantly, you think you are not worth it. And that's the only reason why people don't do what they do. They don't think that they're worth it, because everything, you can do anything you set your mind to, no matter how hard it is. It doesn't matter. You'll find a way. You'll find a way to take care of the kids. You'll find a way to get internet service. You'll find a way to, pay for school. You'll find a way to get to school if you don't have a car. You'll find a way to, have someone take care of the kids, and you'll figure out how you're supposed to study and what it is that you're supposed to study in order to learn and pass what you need to pass. It's part of life. All right? Namaste. Get it done. Love and light. Ciao.